Cannabis.
Sativa.
Dope.
Indica.
Weed.
Leaf.
This is Leaf Life.
All things cannabis for all people.
Now, here are your hosts, Ricker and the Bearded Lorax.
We publish a magazine called The Leaf that is available in print in 13 states at your local cannabis retailer and also available online at leafmagazines.com. My name is Mike Ricker, and I'm your host of Leaf Life with my co-host Wes Abney, also known as the Bearded Lorax.
I speak for the trees.
And of course, there's Stashley.
The token female.
And Mary J. White.
The smoking female.
Welcome to the second half of this Leaf Life show called Ayahuasca. In just a moment, we'll go bigger into what the actual experience is like, and we'll spin Stash's wheel to see what products JHAVID MOHSENI, who has been practicing ayahuasca ceremonies for 7 years, this show's Greg the Guinea Pig, is going to be trying next. Well, we got a pinch hitter, though, with Stash. But first, it's time for Who Does That?
Really? You gotta be kidding.
No way.
Seriously? Utterly perplexing. Who does that?
Mary J. White, this is where the show gets really entertaining. Not that it wasn't already.
Yeah, right. But this is freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's always about somebody who did something fucking quacky,
This is
man.
bizarre.
There's always a butt or poop or something
No, there's
involved.
no poop. There's no poop in this one.
Oh,
Good.
About
Yeah.
time, because we already talked about that with the ayahuasca ceremony. It's like the first thing, they give you a bucket
Ew.
for the poop and a bucket for your puke, man. A pillow, a mattress, and that's it. We'll go into that in just a sec, but first, Mary J. White.
you're really selling it, Ricker.
That's great. Okay, recently in San Diego, federal officers encountered a 46-year-old man who was driving a tractor-trailer containing a gigantic shipment of what was supposed to be onions.
Oh,
Beautiful little white onions.
yes.
Now, during initial inspection of this truck, one officer directed the driver to a more intensive exam with a dog. Well, the canine dog,
That's how that
the
works.
canine dog's like, wait a fucking minute, these are not onions.
Yeah.
They're Funyuns.
Yeah, that's right, Wes. That's right.
Almost.
He got it before
This
me, but I
was
couldn't wait. That was obviously.
1,400 pounds of methamphetamine,
Yeah.
valued at almost $3 million, and each one was wrapped up in a little white piece of paper and looked like an onion.
Wow.
Somebody went through all this damn meth and wrapped it all up, same size, all white little balls, looked like onions.
Hey, they'll do anything. You got to wonder
That's
how many
funny.
onions they got across the border before they got caught, you know?
A lot.
It's a lot of methamphetamines.
Were there
Indeed.
any onions in the whole bunch?
They were mixed with onions.
Yes.
it
Okay.
was.
I didn't catch
Yeah.
that part.
They're little
At
white
least they mixed
globes.
them.
Makes me want a gimlet.
Oh, no, these are bigger than those.
You get
These
it,
are
right?
like onion
Those
onions.
little cocktail onions.
Yeah.
These are real onions. All right,
fellas.
let's spin Stash. Thank you, Mary. Let's spin Stash's wheel to see what Stash is going to be hitting next. Stash times. We need a city called Stash.
Oh,
Stash
yeah.
City. We're going to
Stash
Stash
City.
City.
Yeah.
Vacay.
That'd be a great dispensary name.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Stash.
All right. Nobody
Stash
steal
is
it.
stash.
I picked another MFused.
Okay.
MFused vape cartridge. This one is the peach rings.
MFused is infused.
Infused.
Peach rings.
Peach
Yeah.
rings. That's weird.
I know. It's Mary J. White's a chef, by the way. Go to maryjwhite.com, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, I've never cooked with peach rings before.
No.
But it sounds like you could, like, you know, use one as a bong, like an apple or a
Very
carrot or
tasty.
something.
Very tasty. Good job, Infused.
Infused. Good job, Jeff. Good job, bro. Big shouts.
Yeah.
Big shouts. Loves
Golf
it.
clap.
I
Look for
loves it.
Infused all over the country in the next 3 to 5 years. These guys are
Nice.
expanding heavily. And hey, that's a really good looking vape cart, by the way. I like their packaging and I like their technology. and
With their
such.
big battery,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Technique battery.
And a big thing like that, it doesn't give you lip wrinkles. Nobody wants lip wrinkles, man.
No.
You know, so that's cool.
I don't want eye wrinkles. How do I get rid of that, Mary?
Retin-A.
Oh, red
Ayahuasca.
Thank you. Ayahuasca. All right, so speaking of that, the experience. So I'll start with myself. Here's what I had: a special birthday to celebrate, and I was like, I need to do something big. And I was in Mexico surfing, and I met this guy out in the water, and he was Peruvian. He says, "Oh man, you have to go to Peru, man." And I'm like, "Really? Tell me about it." Because I know Machu Picchu's there. And he says, "Yes. And to get there, you go through the sacred mountains, which they say are full of crystals and such." And I'm like, "Sold, man." Booked a ticket and then went down there for my birthday. End up, it's halfway around the world. Get to Cuzco, which is the nearest main city, and then you get to a small town called Aguascalientes. That's at the base of Machu Picchu. You get up at 3 a.m, catch a bus at 4 a.m. to catch sunrise in Machu Picchu. I get there and we're cruising around. I'm with a buddy of mine and we run it. This guy meets us. He comes up to us. He goes, "You look like a couple fetching American lads. Hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "Where'd this guy come from?" He says, "Hey, I want to introduce you to this guy, Cyrus." Takes us to this dude. This guy's wearing shaman garb and stuff. We're in Machu Picchu. It's touristy. It's a national, park. This guy says, "Oh, it's your birthday? Hey, man, here's some San Pedro. This is for you, a gift. And you have to do ayahuasca." I'm like, "I've heard of it, but I have no real idea what it is." He says, "You have to do it while you're here." Long story short, we were going surfing on the coast for a week. Instead, we're like, "You know what, dude, we're going to detour. We're going to the jungle." And my buddy's like, "Whatever you need, bro." We go in there, we find a dude. He takes us in the jungle, could have taken our organs, but no, we had trusted the process. He's got a shaman. We've got a bungalow and stuff, and we do the ceremony. And it lasts about 4 hours, and it's mind-blowing, right? I come out of the ceremony and I'm like, I'm not sure what I got out of that. It was my first time. I had been doing a lot of work on myself. I've been traveling and stuff and hadn't been in radio like I was, which is a very ego-driven industry. And now I'm really trying to, shed that ego and get in tune with myself as I'm getting older and such. But the one thing that really stuck with me is that they call it medicine. And I mentioned that on the first segment. Medicine. I'm fucking partying in here and they call it medicine. I come back to San Diego where I was living at the time. I get a call from my buddy. He says, "Hey, why don't you move back to Seattle and go into the weed business with me?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Every time I'd come to Seattle, I'd get some of his vape cartridges, wham oil. Yes, let's do it. Because guess what? Mother Ayahuasca just told me that plant medicine is the next phase of my life, and I'm going to follow her lead. And that's how I got into the cannabis biz, Bo.
I love that.
Yeah, so that's the
really
story.
Cool.
That's rad.
That's really cool.
So earlier you said, no, the ayahuasca found me, and that's exactly how it worked for me as well. And I'll always look back to that day, to that ceremony as church. Because the universe directed me to where I am now. Now I've got a wonderful partner with Wes, and we're publishing The Leaf all over the country, and we're doing work that we feel is important. And it all initiated with that ayahuasca ceremony, Javid.
I love it. Every great story has a great beginning, right?
Yeah.
So please tell me about your experiences.
There's been so many, but it is medicine, 100%. It's not something that you go back for because you want a good time. There's a lot of work that happens in the ceremonial space. But I found that the most of the work actually happens out of ceremony when you come out of the experience and you're able to look back and, hopefully have people around you that can help facilitate that integration process. Because it can be very, very intense. It can be discombobulating.
Confusing.
And you're back right in the reality that
it's good to
maybe you were
take a
trying
few
to
days.
escape
Yeah, it's good to take a few days to merge back into whatever your life is going on. But sometimes we can't.
You're
right?
still feeling it the next day. At least I was, and a lot of people go down to a retreat or whatever, and they'll do 8 ceremonies in 30 days.
Back to back. Yeah.
And that's dude. It's intense and it's going deep. And here's the thing about ayahuasca: whatever you've done in your life before, it doesn't compare to the overabundance of what this medicine is. So you'll feel a little bit like you're on LSD, a little bit like alcohol, cocaine, cannabis, name it. Everything you've done before.
How do you know I haven't done all that before?
Of course you have. Of course you have.
I'm kidding.
But you haven't done
Not all at once.
No.
No, right. All at once. You're like, okay, now I feel the high of blow. Now I feel the mellow of an indica. Now I feel like I'm drunk. You go through this washing machine, this roller coaster of emotions and physical feelings, and it's indescribable, undefinable, but it's there. And it is, for the next few days, you're trying to make sense of it all. Right? So to go back into it again, boy, I couldn't imagine, man.
And what we were saying earlier is everybody's experience is different, right? And so, sure, my experiences have generally followed a format where physical effect takes on, you feel it in your body just like you would with, mushrooms or any other substance that you would take, that physical impact. And for me, there's this presence that shows up, this consciousness that shows up. Mother Ayahuasca is in the room. And a lot of my early ceremonies was like, tapping on a chalkboard or, like pay attention. Like it's time to pay attention. You're in school. And, I'd straighten up my body,
Super dogmatic.
straight spine, super respect, humility, reverence. Because there were times where I didn't show up in certain ceremonies with that. And that became my lesson, all about humility and respect and reverence. So, after you check those off and then you can do some real work. But yeah, typically for me, it's this work that comes from the intention. So the intention is super important. If you go in without the intention, it's almost like heading off into the ocean without a compass or without knowing how to navigate, and get from A to B. It can get real messy without an intention.
Because you could end up anywhere.
And, it's kind of like get in the car and Mother Ayahuasca is like, all right, where do you want me to take you? You say, please here.
Yeah.
And then she says, okay. And, off you go. And, that's where a lot of the work comes up. And for me, the format has continued to be, regardless of the journey or the experience, then once that majority of the work or the lesson is over, then I just get to tap into the universe. It's like, what do you want to know? And I'll lay there and I'll be like, what do I want to know? And anything I want to know, it's accessible. Anything, to the point where sometimes it's like, whoa, it's too much. Like my brain can't take that. Like, stop. And she will. And I always say that like Mother Ayahuasca will give you what you need, exactly what you need, and she'll never give you more than you can handle. She's like a very stern, loving grandmother.
Oh, that's nice.
She'll beat your ass if you need to get beat up a little bit, but at the same time, it's under her loving hand.
There was a turning point in my ceremony, and it was in the beginning where I started to feel sick and negative energy was kind of brewing inside of me. And I was very aware of it and sort of I'm a control freak anyways, right? And I was like, oh man, I really, I'm here, I'm in the jungle. I mean, in my mind, the jaguar is walking around the yurt, the Mallorca, and you could hear the locusts you're in the middle of the fucking Amazon jungle, and feeling that experience. But I was like, I want for this to be a really positive, fun experience. And so, when I felt this negative energy coming up and I was starting to get sick, like, oh my God, I'm going to throw up or I'm going to poop. There was a moment where I said, you know what? I don't want that. So I'm going to turn it around. I wonder if I can control it. And I said, I just want to feel something really good. I want to enjoy this experience and boom, like that. It was all gone. And it was butterflies and rainbows from that point on. I was like, okay, cool. Let's ride this out, man. This is great. It was like a full cinematic experience in my own mind as you're kind of shifting positions on this little cot, trying to get comfortable. Your body is struggling with the comfort where your mind is in this place of absolute discovery and euphoria at the same time. It's impossible to describe, like I mentioned before, but to do it is life-changing to a point. And now you've been doing it for 7 years. Would you say that there are some high points and low points in how many ceremonies? 150?
Oh, I lost count. It was important for me at one point to know how many, right? And then it really lost the importance of counting. So I don't know, but I don't know. I don't even want to throw a number at it, but yeah, the highs and lows, same kind of thing. Part of my journey has been about non-attachment, has been about really the values in the experience and trusting the process. So even when there's a challenging ceremony, it's not a good or a bad ceremony. It's challenging, right? Because they're all great. What I've learned in life is that the harder shit that I go through, usually I grow the most out of that and I get the most out of it. And definitely it goes for the same thing in the ceremony space. If it's a really challenging one, I'm probably coming away from that thing with a lot of tools, a lot of understanding, a lot of perspectives that's going to have a direct, immediate impact in my life, like your experience was, right? Plant medicine, the importance, come back to the States, sign up, you're in cannabis now. I had similar understandings in terms of my path and where my focus should be. And it was really based in being of service. And the foundation of our business is set up of being in service to others, right? We don't own licenses in the cannabis space. We actually go out of our way to help other people's other licenses do well and flourish.
Well, I have to ask though, where does all this stuff? I mean, you're not going to Peru once a month, so can you get all these groovy vines and stuff here?
There are ways to get the raw material, and you could make it, but there also are a lot of underground groups from coast to coast, and there are religious organizations that are setting up, and they're using that religious exemption to be able to practice with this, which is federally illegal right now. Much like cannabis.
and on almost a different level, though, where the feds have a very stern approach to any of the psychedelics, really, as they sit. And I think it's important to note too, like, Ricker, your experience was really positive. Some of yours have been positive or negative. My first experience, all positive, learning about ayahuasca was watching a documentary on Vice, and a woman had gone to a ceremony to deal with the after effects of sexual assault. And her entire trip was, from watching on a documentary, she's purging and purging and purging, and that's physical, emotional, spiritually purging. But after, and it looked like something, that you would expect when she came, to the end of it, would be like, I'd never do this. This is horrible. But for her, it allowed her to purge that pain, the trauma, the energy out, and purge some of that physical cellular memory too.
And cope.
And then, came out of it a brand new person. So I think it's important to mention that the therapeutic benefits, the spiritual benefits to this, it should be a fun experience and something that, you grow from. Yeah. But it can also be a real therapy to people who have experienced trauma. And in today's world, we all have some kind of trauma. So finding a way to work through it might be easier than sitting across the couch from a counselor.
It's totally amazing, like you're saying, for trauma and to process that. People who suffer from PTSD, depression, even addiction disorders and whatever's going on, it can help individuals get face to face with that stuff and process it and move beyond it.
It's hard to get real, and sometimes you need an aid to do that because there's so many distractions in life, and we're our own worst enemies. You turn on the television, it takes you away from yourself. You drive down the street, you see billboards. There's so many things that take you out of who you really are at your core that it's difficult to get in there and actually do the work. But that's where healing comes
Life's
from.
fucking wild, right? We all know life's fucking wild. And what's cool is that we've got these tools that Mother Nature, that Mother Earth has provided for us. And we're hardwired to interact with it, whether it's cannabis, psilocybin, ayahuasca. And we're at the beginning of a psychedelic renaissance right now. We are literally at the precipice of this new shift in consciousness, and it's coming back to the roots. It's coming back to the planet. It's coming back to the plants.
Like I said in the open, the soaring 20s. Well, Javid, now it's time for you to play Long Strange Trip, brother.
Long Strange Trip. Vibing with some celebrity psychedelics. This is Long Strange Trip.
All right, you ready, Javid?
I'm ready.
Cool, brother. Great show, by the way. This is
I had a
wonderful.
really good time. Thank you guys again for having me.
All right, so number one, this pop star and former child star said she tried ayahuasca shortly after losing her beloved dog, Floyd, to coyotes. She said all she could focus on was puking up different animals like dolphins, seals, and giraffes.
I think I know that. Isn't that Lindsay Lohan? Sorry to cut you off.
Wrong answer. So
confident.
Britney Spears.
No, she said snakes then grabbed her legs and led her to Mother Ayahuasca, who led her through her entire trip. It was Miley Cyrus.
Miley Cyrus.
Sounds like Miley.
All right, brother.
Yeah.
Number two, this dude had a heavyweight experience with toad venom that led him back to the boxing ring after a 15-year hiatus. He said the toad is a totally interesting aspect of my whole being now, and that it takes you to another dimension, and ever since he tried it, he's experienced a miraculous change about himself.
Mike Tyson, 5-MEO.
Iron Mike Tyson is
Yeah.
correct.
Good.
That's true. He looks so much different since then.
It takes you to another dimension.
Was that Bell?
That's
Round
true.
3? Let's go.
Let's go.
And number 3.
Bob and weave.
On a drop of liquid LSD, this future media tycoon swears on his life that he witnessed an unidentified flying object that stopped in the middle of the sky just before sunrise on the Pacific coast of Washington State. In fact, he so much believed that the craft was real that he waved at it and said, "Hello, I love you."
I don't know.
That was Wes Abney, the bearded Lorax, and Justin Ruiz, who's in our audience coincidentally today.
I love it.
I was back at the hostel or the home, or whatever, the Airbnb, sleeping. Yeah, while these guys were tripping balls on the coast.
We saw it go, and then we acknowledged it, and then it came in, and then it was poof.
I believe
That's
it. I've seen some
cool.
shit in these spaces, and I don't disbelieve that they were really there. We just could perceive them.
Hello, I love you.
Did they reply back? I love you too.
It was a ship.
That's so rad.
Yeah, it was the only time I could ever say I saw something.
That's so rad.
What was its license plate?
You know,
That's going to be the next show. Let's talk about aliens.
be beaming you.
Let's do it.
Interdimensional
That would
beings.
be aliens in Cannabis V2, right?
Hey,
Yeah.
So,
Hey.
Javid, where can we find you on social media?
At JHAVID _Mohseni, I think. And then our businesses are at Tamerlane, at Big Tree USA.
Rockin', brother. Thank you so much for
Thank you
coming
for
in
having
here
me.
and sharing your story.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Be
All
well.
right, brother. See you next time on the Leaf Life Podcast. Look forward to having you back. Hey, Wes, next week, craft cannabis. This is a big one.
Ooh, I love everything crafty.
Me too.
Download this and all Leaf Life episodes at leafmagazines.com. You can listen to all Leaf Life podcast shows on iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify or Google Play, and you can look us up on YouTube as well. Just look up Leaf Life Podcast V2. Now here comes another episode of Stony Baloney, which is also available at leafmagazines.com. And please be kind to animals.
Your hosts for Leaf Life are Mike Ricker and Wes Abney. Leaf Life is produced by Mike Daly. Some of the music heard is provided by purple-planet.com. Every bit of cannabis you use is female, so please respect the ladies.
Leaf Life is brought to you by Leaf Nation, featuring Alaska Leaf, Oregon Leaf, Northwest Leaf, Northeast Leaf, Maryland Leaf, Amsterdam Leaf, and California Leaf. On the shelf now in your local retailer.
Please stay tuned now for this week's edition of Stony Baloney by Mike Ricker.
Stony Baloney by Mike Ricker.
Wookiees. The brain needs oxygen, so the body yawns. And upon rising from the pillow one overcast morn, there was a gurgled effect and a peculiar pitch out of the mouth that seated my core with suspicion. Oddly, it resembled an anxious Chewbacca sending a "let's get the fuck out of here" to his not-so-trusted friend Han Solo, who invariably induces motion sickness from the erratic movement of dodging asteroids to the smell of burnt Wookiee dingleberries from laser beam near misses. I panicked. Had some strange transformation occurred whilst asleep? There was no extraneous fur growing on my body, no foul breath that resembled the remnants of fried Grantelope innards, or any other traits of a Chewbacca for which I should be deeply concerned. There must have been a crazy dream before lucidity resurfaced, so the anxiety began to fade. Nightmare averted. But there is another species of Wookiee, sort of the human version of that Sasquatch's buzzin' cousin from another mother. Generally unclean, extremely hairy, and housing silver dollar-sized earlobe gauges, their look is that of having stolen tapestries from an Eastern European gypsy bordello and fashioned the material into pants. You see and smell them at heady cannabis events toting their wares in a pelican case. I sniffed the underarms, and it was not good. Had I transformed? Was it Freaky Friday? Jumping out of bed, I immediately made a terror run for the mirror, where a thorough inspection was in order. The hair was studied for any new emerging dreads, the mouth for any new sores, and the face for any remnants of crumbs and the patchy facial hair. Nope, it was the same dude that passed out the previous night in the middle of the original Star Wars trilogy. So I relaxed and took a dab, clutching my stuffed Princess Kanisa Ewok toy that brings me comfort in moments of reality.
Wes's sick lids is provided by Grassroots California. Check out the dopeness at grassrootscalifornia.com.
These products have intoxicating effects and may be habit-forming. Marijuana can impair concentration, coordination, and judgment. Do not operate a vehicle or machinery under the influence of this drug. There may be health risks associated with consumption of this product. For use by adults 21 and older. Keep out of the reach of children.